Farm Basics is brought to you by the Liberty Link trait and Liberty herbicide from Bayer. The most reliable weed management solution, Liberty Link and Liberty herbicide are the link to efficient row crop production and sustainable weed management.
Every year, Darren and I get questions from non-farmers who are all concerned about pesticides, and they're getting all over our environment and everything else. And you know what I always tell them? Look, the farmer has a lot of dollars at stake here. The last thing he wants is for his pesticides to leave his field. So there are a number of techniques that farmers can use to reduce any drift potential or any off-site movement or off-target movement, and we wanted to explain those today.
Well, you know, Brian, today is a great day for spraying because there's no wind. So when you're out spraying, you've maybe got a 2-mile-an-hour breeze out there that's hardly blowing at all. Well, that's just perfect because when you're spraying your herbicide, you could spray about anything, use about any kind of spray tip, just blow it out there and it's going to land right underneath your sprayer. So this is perfect. So what farmers will do, first of all, is look for those days where there isn't very much wind at all. Now they can tolerate winds most of the time up to about 10 miles an hour without much issue. But farmers will try to find the more calm days if they can.
One of the other little techniques, little tricks that farmers will use a lot of times too, especially spraying real early in the season like now, is lowering their boom down. Now they have to have the boom on that sprayer a little ways up above the canopy. We're talking 18 to 24 inches above the crop. But when there is no crop, they're spraying on bare ground, obviously they can have that thing just about down to the ground.
Well, the reason they need that little bit of a clearance is because those spray nozzles are typically cone-shaped and they're going to spray a cone-shaped pattern. So more of the spray is going to be right in the middle. Yep. Less of the spray is going to be out towards the ends of the cones. So those cones have to overlap. So those nozzles have to be up off the ground so they can properly overlap. If you put them 2 inches off the ground, well, you're going to have a big stream right underneath the nozzle and nothing in between. So that's why we have to manage that height a little bit, but it is adjustable as the farmer moves through the field.
Okay, speaking of spray nozzles, there are different drift reduction nozzles that a farmer can buy. For example, Turbo T-Jet or air induction nozzles. And what those basically do is they make the droplet size a little bit bigger. And just think about it for a second. If I've got a small droplet and a big droplet, which one weighs more? Well, the big droplet, obviously. And the more something weighs, the quicker it's going to get to the ground. That's gravity. So we want those bigger droplets in order to keep the spray in the field. If we have very small, fine droplets, that's not a good thing in terms of drift.
Well, when you talk about those big droplets, I don't know if they fall any faster than the others, but they certainly don't get caught up in any wind. And as you're driving through the field and you have a little bit of a breeze out there, maybe it's 5 miles an hour or something like that, well, those products can move a little bit. And if they're a tiny little floaty drop, it can drift over to the side where those heavy ones fall a lot straighter down. So that is kind of nice and kind of predictable. But the other thing farmers can do, Brian, without even switching those tips, is use a spray additive to make that droplet size a little bigger too.
Yep, there have been products called drift retardants out for years and years and years. And what used to happen is they had these old polyacrylamide products that you'd get what's called pump shear, and it would be a problem. And eventually, the more you circulated that in your spray tank, the more of a sludge this product became, and farmers hated those products. Well, now they have newer technologies out, so there are lecithin products that are made from soy, and there's also the HPG polymer that will help with drift retardant, but it's not going to become a problem in the spray tank like the old products were.
Well, there are many different options that farmers have, whether it's raising or lowering their spray boom, adding a spray additive, changing their spray tips, or just looking for a day that the wind isn't blowing to try to control where their product lands. And believe me, for what farmers are investing in these products, they want to make sure they're landing in their field to do the job controlling things like our Weed of the Week. Can you identify this week's weed?